I'll feel tears coming, and I'm so much I always say, like, "Gosh, what is wrong with you? You got soft," now into myself because I used to, like, you couldn't get a tear out of me, it's so hard. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Hydrated Mind and Soul. I'm really excited because I have a guest here, Dr. Brooke Hall, and today's show is titled The Bond Beyond Behavior. And as you listen, you'll see why that we have come up with that topic and that title. But I would like Dr. Hall to introduce herself. She's here today. I'm excited that she's here, and you will love to hear what she has to say.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Such an exciting opportunity. I moved to Vero Beach 2 years ago from Nashville.
Oh, wow. See, I thought you were here longer. Okay.
Yep, just two
Okay.
years.
Okay.
And I moved here for the job with Tykes Teens as a trauma-informed care specialist. And so my sole job was just to educate the community on adverse childhood experiences and trauma-informed care and how to meet people where they are. And now I am the director of our outpatient services. So making sure that children in the community get the mental health support that they need. And
Which is a very, very much needed, and there's not enough of that around right now. Mental health in general, there's just not enough help. But the children and what you're doing is extremely important. So Nashville, I heard Nashville. I'm like, this is where all of us go to have fun. And then that's okay. That's good. I wonder what people think when they hear us. Like I think all these other people have accents, and then they'll tell me I have one. I'm like, no, I just sound normal. Like, what do you mean? So anyway, the Nashville thing.
every once
But
in a while, you'll hear it.
yeah. Did you what kind of brought you to this position? Did you already work with children and in mental health prior to coming to Tykes and Teens?
I did. So out of high school, I worked in an after-school program through a mental health facility where they and it was behavior focused.
Oh,
So
nice.
they
Okay.
all, were receiving therapy and struggling in school, and so we would pick them up at dinner, work with them, and then I realized how much money therapists make. So I didn't want that life.
No.
So then I decided to go to school, and I majored in business and worked in advertising for a while, and then just got burnt out and realized it wasn't purposeful. Like it's take,
Yes.
take, take,
Yes.
right? And so I moved back to Nashville. I had my son, moved back to Nashville and started as an educator in special education.
Okay.
And all of the bad kids, BADs, just kind of we attracted one another, attracted to one another. And so they were always in my classroom. I was always called to help. And so I developed a passion for behavior.
Yeah.
And seeing and just stepping back and watching that they weren't accepted for who they were.
Right.
And I could just see exactly why they were behaving like they were behaving in the schools. So I then became an administrator at a therapeutic day school.
Oh, nice.
So in
Okay.
Nashville, if for children who are diagnosed with emotional disturbance through their IEP process, they come to the school and their behavior is too unsafe to thrive in a
Okay.
public school setting. So they would come to our school, learn the skills necessary to thrive, and then we would slowly work them back into the public schools.
Okay, so we need that here.
Yeah.
We don't have that here.
I know.
Okay, so because I was in our district here in this county where I live. I've born and raised here, 6 generations of right here in this county. Been other places for visit and vacations, but I've always lived here, worked here, the whole thing. And I was in our education system. I taught ESE, very similar. So I'm listening to you like, oh, taught that ESE taught a self-contained class before that became where we had to do inclusion, all those things. And to me, any behavior, like you say, kids get labeled or, they're called the bad kid or all these things but people don't try to figure out why is this behavior happening? What's stemming this behavior? And, my very first teaching job was the ESE self-contained room. I was young, I was fresh out of school, and it was in the middle of a school year, and this was the only opening. Someone was leaving for a maternity leave, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what to like. I have no experience with kids. They're telling me all these horrible things." So number one, they're scaring me. I get in there, that was one of my favorite positions to this day that I had, because I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm not going to listen to anything. I'm going in there fresh," and made the decision to even the teacher at the time, it was just she was leaving for maternity leave, so I met with her for a few weeks prior to and came and observed the classroom, those kind of things that they wanted me to do because it was such a terrible classroom. It wasn't.
Mm.
It wasn't. And so, one child in particular, and this is a good, I mean, 18 to 20 years ago, but, is still to this day my favorite child, which was told to me was the worst child
Mm.
in there, and I didn't have problems with him, but I each one, and I mean, you have a small classroom. At that time, I only had 8 kids and a teacher's assistant, but severe behaviors, severe diagnoses, all that's things, but set that aside, and you have to cater to each child's needs, no matter what. There is no such thing as normal to me, but they say, "Well, normal." Well, no, there's not normal, but in my opinion, in the special education classrooms, we need to even more so figure out where a behavior is stemming from, where there's a difference in a behavior that's coming from a trauma or coming from a household that maybe is dysfunctional or not healthy than a behavior that is a child who just needs a spanking or timeout. Like, I'm there, but there's a huge difference. There's kids that are behaving bad just because a parent lets them do whatever they want, but there's also behaviors that
Yeah.
it's
Every
not.
behavior has a function.
Yeah.
Every behavior has a result in that, regardless of what that outcome is. I mean, they're getting something from the
Yeah.
behavior, right? And so, um, I was when I started my research for my doctoral program, I wanted to do it on collaborative problem solving.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Dr. Ross Green?
Yes.
Okay. So, Dr. Ablin and Dr. Pilastri, I actually got to speak to Dr. Ablin and Dr. Pilastri
Okay.
before I started. It was so cool.
Okay, wow.
It was
Yeah.
so cool. And then COVID hit, and so I had all my research ready to go. And I had to switch to a systematic review, and that was boring. But then we got to go back in the schools again.
Okay, nice.
So, I ended up, because of the short timing, doing a survey just to teachers about their perception on behavior, and the quali the qualitative data was shocking. I actually thought my friends were playing a joke on me.
No.
So some of the question was, with what students do you have the best relationships? And I got responses of kids with two-parent households, kids who want to do well, kids who care about their future, kids who, things like that. And I was like, "Are you serious with this?" And it turns out that 67
Okay, I like this. You're giving me a percentage.
67% of the responses were along those lines.
Yeah.
But the kids that are struggling are the kids who need us.
Yeah.
And there's such a big discrepancy there.
So think about it. So think about what you just said or what I'm thinking as to what you just said is coming from my background prior to being a clinical psychologist, of an educator. And it was so heartbreaking because you're right. But we have a lot of people that are, and listen, I am all about for teachers. I support teachers, but I've also seen this system very broken. And thankfully, I was blessed to have amazing teachers around me and administrators for the majority of my career. However, we were on the inside, and you can see so much brokenness when there is a problem. Nobody wants to handle it correctly. Nobody wants to address it. It's too much. There's a lot put on teachers'
Mm.
plates, way too much that we are supposed to do, and the yeah, the requirements just keep getting higher and higher for younger and younger, and then they wonder why they're struggling when kindergarten used to be cutting and glue and color, and it's now, all kinds of other things. So age appropriateness developmentally for your brain does not align with what we're doing in the school systems.
Agree.
And so, but then we sit and struggle, well, why are our scores so low? Well, but that's a whole nother
I know.
topic. So to bring to that point, it's easier to just push the behaviors off for people. Well, he's bad in his office, or he, this. No, like the kids that need us the most, the single parent home, the you could have two parents and there's still a behavior problem, but what's stemming it? Does the child is it that? Is it academics? Are they bored? Is it too much? Is it, you have to get to what specifically is causing that behavior. Is it coming from a school? Which environment is kind of fueling it? The school's environment, the home's environment, a combination of two. Like, there's so much that goes into it, but there's not enough people who want to sit down and truly take the time to address it.
Yeah. Or have the resource. I mean, time is the biggest need in
Yeah.
schools. I mean, we when you struggle with a child and you do need to send them out of the classroom, that relationship is not repaired before they reenter because there's not time.
Yes.
I mean, I do think I firmly believe that every teacher does the best they can with what they have.
Yes, it's true.
So the kids,
Majority, but yes. But that's any career, that's any situation. We do.
let me refill. We all do the best, and I'd say
We
this,
do.
we all do the best we can with what we have at the
Exactly.
moment.
Yes, we do. And the resources are limited. So for teachers, as a teacher myself, there was a lot of things that I wanted to do. I felt like to do, but I didn't have the time or resources to do
We
it.
didn't have the capacity at the moment.
Yes.
Right? But if you did, then things might look different. So I want to believe that everybody does the best with what they can, what they have at the time.
No, I do agree on.
Kids do too. And kids do well when they can.
Yes.
Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I just really want to suck today.
Yeah.
I just want to suck today. I want to be a failure today.
Right.
It can be challenging and it can be a thought, but we all want to inherently do well.
Yeah.
And it's all of the barriers that exist in our lives, force those behaviors. And really it just takes that one person realizing where the unmet need falls, where that unmet skill set is, and just the smallest conversation can change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here's my question for you, that I wrote down, because I just keep a few. But how do you define connection when it comes to kids who push boundaries or have a behavior problem?
Meet them where they are through a non-judgmental lens.
Here you go. Very good.
I mean, it's in all humans, really.
Yeah. No, true.
What happens when we do that? What happens when we accept the fact that that person's reality is their reality and we meet them where we are? And we're not judgmental. It doesn't mean we're condoning anything. We're just there. We're safe. We're there. We're understanding and not judging.
Exactly. That's a big one. So when we don't address things, we don't build a connection and a relationship and address those behaviors, though they progress, and then you have an adult that has a lot of difficulty in the real world, in jobs, whatever the case may be, because it was never taken care of. There wasn't that person to build a connection with. It doesn't have to even be a parent. I'm not saying
Sure.
a parent, any outside person, a person at school, school personnel, a person in aftercare program, an aunt, somebody at the church, whatever, for a child, because sometimes the children are not in a home environment that they're going to get that. So we do have to understand we don't always know where they're coming from. Same as an adult, we don't know what they're doing, or what we see them out in public and maybe they look fine or they smile, but we have no idea what's going on inside in their home, or what environment. They may not even be in a home. I know so many adults that are in shelters and in different transitional houses. So we don't know what they're going through when we see them outside. We have no idea. And so it's important to be non-judgmental, for the simple fact of that will help them. They often don't share because they feel as though they're going to be judged for where they're living or what they're doing, or become accustomed to become what they've felt and been told when they haven't had a connection built. So if people are telling them they're bad and they need to do better, or you failed this test, they're now going to internalize that and think, I am a failure. I am bad. I don't know how to behave. I'm never going to have a job. These all set in. Your words are powerful. So the thing, especially to children, because you don't want that to manifest into adulthood, which sadly most times does if they don't find that connection with someone or somebody that cares enough to figure out what's truly going on. But, the words, I mean, I firm believer, and everybody knows that. I don't push that on anybody. My personal Christian beliefs, it's okay for someone else to have different than me. I still love them. We agree to disagree. But in my personal beliefs, the Bible talks about how strong words are. It's like a double-edged sword. And so what we speak, if I speak negative to someone, I'm putting that on them that now that's so hurtful and terrible. If I'm speaking life, speaking positively, that's going to uplift regardless of which is meeting them where they're at. Like I'm going to speak positive even if I know you're in something bad, a bad situation. I don't care if you're a drug addict on the street. I'm still going to be nice. I'm not going to judge you. I don't know what got you there, you know? So, at the end of the day, our words are so much more powerful than we think.
They are. And that one interaction, that brief interaction that you have with that person on the corner could, the next hour could make a difference on if they're going to get help or if they're going to get another drug.
Right.
Like you just never know. It's our brains are so tricky and I love brain science.
Mhm.
But changing someone's core belief just for a moment can give them the strength they need to make the positive next move.
It's true. You never know if you're gonna change the trajectory of somebody's life by just saying something or doing something because they might be in a spot where they just don't think they're worthy, and you come along and say, "Hey, let me help you. What do you need?" And they're so surprised that somebody's gonna take the time to be nice or kind to them or help them in even the littlest way, you know? It could be just a kind word or it can be, helping them, giving them something, whatever it may be. That one interaction, like you said, can change that whole thought process that they have into a positive one. Like, wait, maybe I am okay, or maybe I am worth somebody. It's that self worth, I think, that really kind of gets people. They get set in they're not worthy a lot of times because they've been treated so bad for so long or had a traumatic event or trauma in their childhood, and so they take on that as they're not worthy, that's what's supposed to happen to them
That's
rather
their
than
core
Mhm,
belief, right?
exactly.
And it just takes one relationship to change that core belief.
It does.
Yeah.
It
Another thing I like to talk about is our window of tolerance.
Yes,
See,
okay.
that's like my
Yeah,
jam.
go ahead, yeah, let's do it.
So, I also think as people navigating the world, dealing with people who are struggling, um, our window of tolerance is where we are in our state of mind and where we can handle challenges that come our way, right? And so we fluctuate
Yeah,
within that throughout the day. So I always use an example of getting ready for school in the morning, like getting our
right.
kids out the door. It's very rarely that I exited my house inside my window of tolerance, right? And my son
That's
probably the same based on my behavior, likely. But and then you think about um, you've got kids coming into the school outside their window of
right.
tolerance, teachers having their own children coming in outside their window of tolerance, and everyone's just operating at their wits' end, right? And
Exactly.
we're all lacking the space to where we can thrive.
Yes.
And so it
It's true though, it's so true, it's funny, like, we're laughing, but it's so true because you think about it, you're by the time you get out the door, you're like, "I get in the car, like, you have it why are your shoes not on yet? I already" the whole morning, you just started your day off like that, so it sets this tone, and everybody's coming like, "Okay, we're at school, we made it, but I'm
we're
here."
barely hanging
The
on.
child and the parent, because I did the same thing. My kids are grown and out of the home now, but that when they were younger, and I was teaching at the time, so it was like a double whammy because I'm taking them to the same school, and now I'm agitated, and I'm telling them, "Don't embarrass me at my work," and it's a whole and then like, "This is stupid," as I got progressed, I'm like, "Why are we doing
Well,
this?"
yeah,
Like,
yeah. We're all in our head, right? And
Mhm.
everybody's and so um but when we as responsible adults, the helpers, the whatever we want to call
Yeah.
ourselves, um, when we approach people inside our window of tolerance, that's why it's so important to stay there. or not, we can't stay there. I don't want to say,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
make it a point to make sure that in order to help others, we help ourselves first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And that's, you say self care. A lot of people think of that as an after the fact or the bubble bath, but self
No.
care is what are we doing to keep ourselves inside that window of tolerance so then we can help the children who are struggling.
Yeah, other people in general around us. So if you're inside, all of us are gonna go outside, just like all of us are gonna make mistakes every day. You try your best as long as you get up with, "You know what, I'm gonna try my best today. I didn't do well, I fell. The difference is, did I get back up and try again and say, 'You know what, I need to do this different next time,' or 'I need to do it better.'" And you might fail again and again. However many times you fall, as long as you get back up each time. And so with that window of tolerance is you're right. Same as, um, helping yourself so you can help others is just like you can't love someone the way they need to be loved if you don't love yourself and that internal true love, that you I'm not saying like, "Oh, I don't like my hair," or, like we all have little things like or that, but I'm saying that true like the peace that I do I'm happy with myself, with
Mhm.
and don't beat yourself up, which is also kind of in that self-care thing like we're all not perfect. Don't beat yourself up over this. Don't sit there. Like, okay, I know what mistake I made or I know what I did. How do we move forward from here? I'm a hand talker and
I am too.
um
Working on it.
so the I'm always like trying to because of my microphone. But but that forward, like what do we do now? Almost everything and I just said this last night, but almost every single thing that happens to us was not our fault and wasn't our responsibility, but it is our responsibility how we handle it and we move forward from there and we don't sit in it. So, and it sometimes it takes another person to help us to say, "Hey, wait a minute. Let's not sit there. These are the steps or things you can do to get better, to move forward, to heal." But if we're not inside that window,
Yeah.
we're not gonna be able to do that for somebody else.
Yeah. And what you just said, so think about what you just said and a student or a child who is struggling. We were raised to punish and shame. Think about how different the child's going to react when we come in that space. We come to them in that
In that
space of
yeah.
help and healing and realizing, yep, this does suck right now. Like this is
Yeah.
really hard right now and we are not perfect, opposed to shaming them and grounding them and pushing them away or sending them outside the classroom. That's where kids heal and that's where they grow and that's where relationships are formed.
Yeah, true. And so it's the same as like with it's just like everything we say about children is still it's the same with adults. Yeah, every little thing we're talking about. It's just that it's so important with children because then they may not have to deal with as much when they're an adult if we address it as a
Yep.
child. So that's where that like difference comes in. Not that you won't or don't everybody's different and there's always exceptions to rules and statistics and all those things. But in general, if these things can be addressed younger,
Mhm.
the better as age progresses. There's always a new challenge, every but each one, how that challenge is addressed each time or that behavior, can make a huge difference. I do think that, of course, you're right, like generational, the olden days, it was a very harsh, I think maybe too much so, it was like there was no explanation. It was like you get I said no and you get a whipping and then you're like you're not even sure what you did.
Better not
So
cry long.
like yeah, like no, I was told dry it up.
Yeah.
Dry it up. So like now I'm such a like like, even, like, when I went to speak, I'm like, "Ooh, nope," like, I'll feel tears coming, and I'm so much I always say, like, "Gosh, what is wrong with you? You got soft," now into myself because I used to, like, you couldn't get a tear out of me, I was so hard and, stubborn and just, like, like, there's no way. You couldn't make me cry, I don't care what you said to me, how horrible it was, I didn't care what you thought of me, and I, over years, have soften, I could say a bad word that I don't wanna use use because 'cause I'll say what, about myself, in, like, the terms of being but I also think I've become more Christ-like year by year as the more I get in the Word, on top of the fact that you age, you learn, you reflect, and so I I still am a okay with punishment person. It just depends on how it's done, how it's used, and how I don't I don't mean abuse but I'm saying, like, if you are gonna I think each parent, what you choose to do is okay as long as you do it with the intent that if you're gonna give your kid a spanking, they need to know why. They need to be explained to. Now, I'm not saying I do or agree or disagree. I feel like that's a fine line of each parent, but you like I said, like, I would get a whipping and have no idea what I was doing.
Mhm.
Like, but if somebody would have said, "Hey, this is what you did. I said no. This is why I spanked you." I probably would never do that again because I knew why just to get whipped. I didn't want to get whipped again, you
Yeah.
know? So, but when it's, you have that conversation or you take a minute, to me, I feel like in the moment of anger, you don't do it. So you take a minute, then you say, okay, this is, like whatever it is, I don't know. You talked back, just literally anything that you're dealing with, but you take a second to not react out of the anger because when you're reacting out of anger, the punishment is usually worse than when you take a second to reflect, like, what level of punishment is this worth? Like, basically, is it a timeout? Is it we talk? Is it whatever it is in your household, like, what are we gonna do? Is it just this isn't that bad at all. Why did I even get mad over that? They didn't put their shoe on, like, I shouldn't even worried about that kind of thing. Like, pick your battle, um, type of situation, whether it's a spouse or a child or whatever, it's the pick your battle. Like, is it really that important? Should I really be mad over that? Like, you brought me the wrong drink. And you get all upset and then you think, is that important? No, like, I don't even need to be upset about that. Like, but then they learn too that you take a second, you reflect, you calm down, and
And then
then usually your choice is the better one rather than immediately, which is that, like, morning thing. You're running late, so you're freaked out, so you're mad, and it takes over because you're like, I'm like, "You're not gonna be on time. You're not listening. You didn't but did you brush your teeth? Like, what's going on?" But it just escalates,
Yep.
and then that feeling of stress is everybody's stress, so they're just feeding off each other's stress. Brother's crying, so then you know what? Other brother's gonna cry, and then sister's crying, so you know what? I'm gonna throw my shoe at sister,
Have a bad
and
day.
and everybody starts off their day with, "You know what? That was just crap," you know?
Call that practicing the pause.
Yes.
You've got when you practice the pause, then you know for sure you can be more strategic with your response,
Yeah.
right? And so if it is to spank, so you can say, "What lesson am I trying to teach this child?
Yes.
Is a spanking going to teach this lesson? I don't know." I was talking to a mom the other day, and she said, I bring him home, I hold him accountable. He knows he's getting a whooping." And I said, "Is that changing his
Is it
behavior?"
working?
Yeah, is it working?
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we ask ourselves. So, yes, you're feeling frustrated. Yes, you practice the pause. This is what we're struggling with here. Let's stop and think. What's going to cause the behavior to change? Is a spanking going to help? Is the grounding going to help? Is when we take kids' phones for 2 days, that's harder on the
Yeah.
parents than it is
I know,
on
right? Like, you can't have your iPad and you're like, "What do I do with this kid? He won't leave me alone." Yeah. So, that's true. I talk to people all the time, they're like, "Ah," but see, it's easy. It's easier to just give it back and not be consistent, and you know what? You have an hour of no iPad time, but 20 minutes in, I'm kicking, I'm screaming, I'm crying, you're like, "Yo, yeah." Well, that shows them the inconsistency of it teaches them that I don't stick to my word, and you're not hurting them by taking the iPad, but it's real difficult for you. You're cooking dinner or you're trying to get work done or whatever, so you're like, "You know what? It's Jimmy here. Just here. Just have
It's
it."
not
But they
teaching
learn that word.
well, it's teaching them some lessons, but
Yeah.
it's not teaching them a lesson we want
The
them to
the
learn
right
in their
one.
behavior.
It's teaching them if I do this, I'll get it back rather than and when they get are an adult and they kick and scream out in the job, so we're not teaching them an effective skill, ourselves either. We're making it worse on ourselves even though we feel like it's harder in that moment of frustration. So I do the same thing. I say, you know, i there's different punishments, but they all don't work for the same child. And that's why I said if you step and you say, "Okay, hold on," and you think about it, because spanking could work for one kid, but you could beat this other kid and they don't care. They're laughing, they do it right over again. Okay, so now what do we do? Like it could be a timeout or it could be just as let's talk about this, let's reflect. Every kid's different. So even between like my two children,
Yeah.
completely different, in the way they reacted or handled or what worked for them and didn't. One was more sensitive. One me as a child, I can remember between me and my brother, my brother would be spanked and hit and yelled at and put in timeout and had toys taken away. He did not care. None of it. He could care less. 10 minutes later, he's right back at it, just, and I'm thinking, I'm over here like, oh my gosh, like I do not want a spanking. I don't want anything. I don't want to be yelled at. I didn't want anything at all, because I was so, I was always as a child, like, I wanted to be so good and, like, I wanted that affirmation, like, positive, like, how good you are and you're doing good. I didn't wanna be told, like, "You're bad," or
Mhm.
those he could care less. You could tell him, "You are so terrible." You shouldn't talk to a kid like that, but I'm saying in, reflection, like, I don't know why you don't listen. Well, when I reflect back on that, I know why he didn't listen. I can tell you exactly why he didn't listen. But, at the time, they did the best they could. Again, my parents did the best they could with what they knew, with how they were raised. I love my parents. They're amazing. Um, but you look back and you think, and I used to talk to my brother too, like, "Oh, you're so bad. You're so bad. What's wrong with you?" Because I didn't wanna even see and hear him getting in trouble, I was like,
So guess what he believes at
"Mhm,
this point,
mhm."
right?
Yeah.
He believes it. He owns it. And boy, you're owning it well,
Exactly.
right? Have you heard? So Thrive is had the grant for strengthening families. So I'm a facilitator for strengthening families, and there's a strategy that we teach that I wish I knew. I wish I knew a lot of things when I was raising my son, but it's having very clear expectations, and which is I have a story about that too, but and it's basically the idea of this is your responsibility. If the responsibility is not met, then you will have a minor inconvenience added on
Yes.
to the responsibility. So you didn't take out the trash, so now you get
This
to
is
take out the trash and sweep the floor.
It's very clear and they know ahead of time. So it's not just like whack, you did something. It's more like so for my kids, still, my kids are grown and out of the house again, and I still have this hanging in my wall. We had a always and a never list, two separate ones.
Okay.
Things that and they're for display, typed them in a frame. They're still hanging in my house. I moved them to the laundry room because my kids have grown up in my way, but it's a reminder as an adult, you still have things that you do. They're always so my always is more the positive. We're always allowed things we should always do. Always be kind to other people. Always I could give you the whole list, but and then my never list was what you're never allowed to do. There's no negotiation. These
Mhm.
are nevers. Anything that's not on the always or never list, then it's up for discussion. What is it? Let's talk about it. Like, I don't know if it's not on the never list. Like, it could be a yes, could be a no. Let's talk about it and see. But the never is a never. If this happens, there's a consequence for the never because I've upfront told you this is something that's never acceptable in our home for me. Never is a teenager gonna break rules? Absolutely, we all did. I would drink, I did all the things I was not
And then we could
supposed to
change.
do. However, on this list, drug use is a never, a never. Now, on my always list, so it kind of contradicts in terms of my always is you can always call me. If you are drinking, if you did do drugs, always call me. I will come get you. I'll be there 3 a.m., 2 a.m. My always list is the nevers are never bad enough to where I won't come and help you. They're just an expectation to know what I expect and what is absolutely not acceptable in my book, and there will be a consequence, and depending on which never it is, the consequence is different, but you always know that I'm not gonna rush up because you were drinking. I'd rather you call me instead of drive. If you're drinking, you're underage, even if to this day, out of the home, it can if you go out with friends and it's 3 a.m., call me, don't drive. I will still come get you. It's not gonna be a whole long discussion in the car. Imma let you sleep it off. We're not gonna fight on the way home. You can go sleep it off. But there's in the morning, there's gonna be we're gonna have a talk, and there's gonna be consequence, depending on what the never is. There's different nevers, but,
Absolutely.
you know
It's so powerful knowing that you're hearing and from your parents, I've got you.
Mhm.
You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna do things on the never list, and I've got you.
Yeah.
And you can say it, but when they feel it, that's what makes a difference in a child's life, right?
Yes, and I
Love
truly hope that my children, that will make me emotional, but I truly hope my children do. They do. I really truly feel like they do to this day, know that, and we like, even cards. So I was really big on, expressing love and, maybe, too sometimes I think too much, like, I was over, like, the intrusive. And I tell them still, I'm like, "This is what you got. You weren't able to choose your parent, so unfortunately, this is what you got, and so I'm nosy, I'm intrusive. Till the day I go home with the Lord, I'm gonna be in your business, and I'm sorry, because you're grown, and I shouldn't care and whatever, but I do, and I can't explain the love that I have for you, so your business is my business, okay? You can be in your home and pay your own bills, but at the end of the day, every night when I go to sleep, I wanna make sure I know you're safe, you're here, if little things. I don't have to know everything. There's some things, relationship-wise and stuff, I probably don't, too much information. I don't go that far. But, I have to know. I've had this pact, like, "Hey, if anybody moves, we're all moving." Like, I'm overboard, so they're like, "Gosh, get away from me." It's like, they're probably like, "What in the world? Can we get rid of her somehow for, like, an hour?" No. But they do know, and I think that's the most important thing is that they know you love them, and my saying, I sign everything, cards, text messages, I never let a night pass that I don't text, "Good night, love you," because when they lived in my house, now they're out, so now I text it or call, but when they lived here, never one night, never a night that you don't say, "Good night, I love you."
No.
You never know. You just don't know, like, if that morning's gonna come, and so for me it was a big, like, hang up the phone. Even my husband, like, if we can be mad, and I'm like, "I don't even wanna talk to him right now, but love you, goodbye." That's even if it's stubbornly, like, "I love you, goodbye, because 'cause I'm mad, but I do if something happens, I'm going to beat myself up if those weren't the last words that they heard. So, I'm like, so every day I make it a point, and I didn't wanna see, this is what I'm talking about. It's
But
so
it's
insane.
okay.
It's hormonal or something. I am. So, but it's so important because I think that it really repairs a lot of things even when we had issues like with, my son, different behaviors and not to the point where it was severe, but everybody's different. And it was always, listen, there's nothing I tell him now, hey, we got somebody we need to take care of. Like, right at dawn. Like, I
Mhm.
got you. Like, we're good. We're gonna keep that a secret. Like, whatever it is when it comes to the children or even my family is pretty close. Um, that at the end of the day, I love you always, forever, no matter what. That's what I sign everything with. And they know that means it could be a crime. It could be like at the end of the day, I don't know anything. I will help them. Now, I tell them all the time, if I have to bail you out of jail, I'm gonna come get you. We might have to talk about it a little bit. But at the end of the day, I'm not perfect either. And what if I need you to bail me out now that you're adults? So you know what?
So
We're good. Like you're grown now, so we're good. Like we're just gonna I
my dad
still love you no matter what.
my dad told me, well, he said it a couple of times. He's like, "I expect name brand diapers."
Yeah, all right.
So, but it's like, we do. He takes good care of me and they will one day need to
Yeah.
take good care of us,
Yeah.
hopefully, or will take good care of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell him I don't want you to have to take care of me. Just go ahead and if I get to the point where I have to be physically taken care of or I'm mentally, not competent, just like do me a favor and it's time to take me out.
No, they'll
I
send you the text every night. Love
Oh
you,
my
here always.
like, I was like, so that's part of loving me. Like, I don't want you to be, have to go through taking care of me. And especially if I'm mentally not there, I'm like, go ahead and slide me something and let me go home and see the Lord. Like, do me a solid. I always tell my son, like, you gotta be like, do me a solid. I don't want to lay a vegetable. Like you already go.
Which one it's gonna
It's
be?
like an animal in suffering. Like, it's time to put them down. Like, you don't want to see them in pain and suffering. Let's go ahead and put him down. I tell him all the time, "You can put me down, right? Like, don't let me lay there and be a vegetable or suffer or have to be to the point where I have, like, diaper," just so but I talk to him, I joke with them about that. I'm not joking, though. I really like, that I'd be fine with them going ahead and taking me out. But, if it got to that point, but, we joke like that all the time, like, "Oh, time to put her down," you know? So, whatever.
Sure
But,
don't.
yeah, no, like, it's like a joke within us, but I encourage parents to, little things like that, you don't realize how far they go. I had a lot of trauma, that I feel like actually was good, which sounds really weird, but to me, all the trauma helps me become the way I am now as a parent, and I think God uses bad and turns it to good, and so I learned a lot from each piece of trauma that as a child, I didn't realize was trauma. It
Mhm.
wasn't until I was adult that I was like, "Yeah, that's definitely wasn't normal," or that was pretty rough, like, but it was normalcy to me.
And your parents may not, I don't know what it is, but your parents may not have
Yeah.
seen it as traumatic
No,
either. I mean,
no,
they're doing the best they can with what they had, right?
no, exactly, and that's why I say they do because they didn't. They really didn't, and there's other trauma that happens to me that was not my parents too, that we all have had different situations. So, but those all made me who I am today, and I just no matter how hard it gets, and it is free, it costs no money to show the love. I think there's children in a home that they can hardly afford their food that have more love than some it's not about money and buying them things because I think people also parents tend to think like if I can get them the same shoes as the other kids so they're not making fun of and all these things. No. Like Valentine's Day, the whole month of February, this is just an example. I cut different just little it could be a random paper. I used to just take paper from my classroom and make hearts, and every morning they'd wake up to a different heart stuck on the door with something about them. So, like, "You're handsome," and "You're beautiful." My daughter would wake up, "I'm proud of you. You're worthy," each day in February until the door was filled, and, 'cause Valentine's is just, like, the theme I did, but I did other things through like that, and those little tiny things, you'd be so surprised how something like that costs me no money, shows them how much they're worthy and they're loved, and then their window is different because now they're more accepting and they have a larger
They
window for
believe it.
children
They
around them.
start to
Mhm.
believe it about themselves. When and we can think our relationship is strong and we can think we're supporting our children, but they have to believe it. And so little things like that do make the biggest difference
It
when
does.
they believe it.
It makes a lot.
I love that idea.
We've talked a lot, and I wanted to talk about I wanted to give you I wrote down my 2 statistics, that, kinda had to do with you talking about connection and stuff and saying that that's something you really liked, and, I didn't even get to a lot of the stuff that I wanted to, but, there was clinical trials that I read where childhood trauma was associated with poor parental bonding, so
Mhm.
that brings me to, like, what I did where, the you might love your children to death, and you're there every day, and you're in a two-parent household, but if you don't do that bonding with your child, like and it doesn't have to be exactly what I did, but
But it has
I
to
just
be
gave an
intentional.
example,
Something intentional.
Yes, those children are more likely to it's just associated they don't feel worthy, so what do? Go find that somewhere else that
Yep.
might not be a good outlet, and things like that. When you're thinking you're doing good, like, "I'm here, I'm working, I'm at home with them," but that true bonding that needs to be done intentionally is not being done, and you don't even realize it.
Right.
So and that statistic, shows that you've got a third of children, that don't have that bonding and then exhibit behaviors,
Yeah.
even though their parents are great.
I would even bet it's higher.
I would think so too, because I said a third, and I was like, when I read that this was a trial, so if you went to like a real statistic, this is just in the US,
Mhm.
I would be willing to say, it was higher. My other one was that children that are exposed to neglect or inconsistent caregiving, so it doesn't necessarily have to be neglect, are 85% higher risk of DSED, or if people that are watching don't know what that is, that's a disinhibited social engagement disorder. So they're going to detach from people. They're not going to want to bond with people around them or trust them. You know that I'm saying that's for the people that
Sure.
may listening that don't know what those abbreviations and things stand for. So that approach to unfamiliar adults, a teacher, whoever new, is going to be a lot more standoffish. They're going to say, I'm not so sure about that because they've had different, caregiving inconsistency or jump from grandma to mom to foster to whatever it is. So they've built that wall.
Mhm.
Like, well, now it's harder to do that connection. It can still be done, and that takes that one person, but it's a little harder. And so people are like, they don't want to. They're
Yeah.
no.
They don't want a
They need it
relationship. They
more.
want a relationship.
They need it more. Like, you know, so those ones that put that wall up, just remember that wall, like it can be broken down and it needs to be broken down. And those are the kids you need to be focusing on.
Absolutely.
But anyways, so what do you want to leave us with? What's a good something you could just say to everyone that you want them to hear?
Um, I think the biggest thing is just when you navigate the world through a lens of understanding over judgment, that you're making a bigger impact than you realize.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's so true. I'm really I wanted to am I done? Am I out? Okay. Sorry. I really wanted this is the last that's why I said I don't ever even hardly read my notes, but I really wanted to important for teachers, caregivers, parents, whatever. I had written a little just kind of jotted down the effective ways to build that, relationship or connection with children who resist it. So
Mhm.
the kids who accept it, that's not so hard, but those that are resisting that connection, I kinda jotted down what I think are the 6 top ways to
Okay.
kinda build that connection, and you can say, "Oh, yes," or "No," or whatever, but the first one for me was consistency and predictability
Mhm.
from the person, not from the child, obviously, that, "Oh, wow, they're that consistency, like,
Huge.
wow, they are sticking around.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to push them away and see if they'll go away,
Yes.
and nope, you come back. I'm
Yes.
back again next week to see you, to talk to you, to back again." So that, I think, number 1 for me was what I put down for those who resist it, that wall, I basically that they see, like, no matter what they do, and they may even do worse just to see because that's what they're used to. They're used to being left, so they wanna see, like, "Yeah, she'll leave too, or he'll leave too. He'll say nice things to me for a while, and he's to be gone, so let me see if I can do something else. Still get him to go away, and no, you're back again." And that really builds them to like, wow, okay, this one's sticking around. Like maybe I will connect with them. Number 2 for me was to meet the needs before the behavior. So there, and you can intervene anytime. And then, but there's so many behaviors that come from a need that's not being met. And it could be a big need or a really small need that you're not even sure what it is. It could be so tiny that when you realize it, you're like, that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
But it's a big one to sit down and think about what the behavior might connect to as a need. And if you meet a need before the behavior, you've already stopped. You've got a huge
'Cause the
step.
need's
You
not
just
going away,
no.
and that's, the need's not going away, we just have to teach them how to access it appropriately, right? And by thinking ahead and being proactive, yes,
Yes.
100% agreed.
I think we talked a little bit about this but a 3 for me was to let them lead as long as it's safe.
Mhm.
You let them lead a little, which helps you then decide and determine what needs not being met or where that behavior is coming from because you're kinda letting them take over. I'm doing this kinda quickly, but, where, it could be in a conversation, it could be in a discipline, it could be anything in schoolwork where they're kinda leading and you really tune in to what they're doing and saying, and then you can kinda determine, "Okay, wow," like, really listen, really tune in, is what I'm saying, and you don't react surface level.
Yes.
So that goes back to the pause, but I have that written down where you don't react to the surface level, you wait and then see. They get mad, they kick, they scream, you sit there for a little bit, and, they do it for 20 minutes. You just sit there like, what did that work? Do you feel better? Do like, instead of reacting to it right away. I had the nonverbal connection. Often we feel like we can't connect with a kid because they're not listening to us or, they've put that wall up or they're doing a behavior. There's a lot of nonverbal connection that you can do to then lead to that verbal or physical connection with that child. And a warm smile, not a dirty look,
Slide a little note.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, then I have 5 and 6, and I'll let you kinda shut the show down, but
Okay.
5 is repair after a rupture. So, what I mean by that, when I tell people that is I mean that sometimes we do wrong. We start our day off wrong or we reacted wrong. So then we repair that by showing the child that I can make a mistake and so I'm going to say, "Hey, I'm sorry I did that earlier. I should have whatever." And it shows the child how to apologize, how to repair, and that I'm not perfect either, and I made a mistake, but I'm gonna repair it and tell you, "I'm sorry. I want you to know I shouldn't have done that earlier." Because then they learn to do
Yeah.
that. And then the last one, is patience and persistence. It takes time to not think that I'm gonna meet with a kid once or twice and do this, and then it's great. Some kids maybe, some kids 1 or 2 times, some kids a year. Like, you don't know, you just have to be persistent and patient, and it'll happen eventually if you stick around and are consistent.
And know that it's a roller coaster.
It is.
No, it's not ever going to be great all the time. It's a roller coaster, and so your list of things are great, and you have to constantly revisit them at different times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
I know. I feel like we could do, like, 2 or 3 shows because it's, like, touching the surface still.
That's all.
I was like so we'll have to have you back on again, and we'll do another, in-depth or, like, even another topic of it. So I know what you left people with was great. Um, I think you do amazing at what you do just by the way, you've talked about what you do and some things I've heard a speech you gave, like I, told you earlier and your analogy and just thought it was amazing. And that's why I wanted to bring you on because I think you are building connections and truly care. And if you come from a place of intention and true from your heart, then it works. It's if you're just doing it to doing it when it doesn't. So I thank you for what you're doing with Tykes and Teens and just in general with speaking out to the public. So
Appreciate the time with you. This has
yeah.
been great.
I really thank you for being on, and I hope everybody has a great day. As always, thank you for watching, tune in, share, and be blessed.